Meet's had a bit of a rebranding and a bit of a reinvention, and here we've got the interface. If you're approaching it from meet.google.com or via the waffle, which is these 9 dots, using the Meet icon, which is this stylized camera icon. From here I can launch a quick meeting. I can create one with a nickname or code that I can then share with other people, and I can access my calendar based meets. From my Google Classroom I can also access Meet in exactly the same way. So I'm going to start one with a code. So it could be, for example, Year 2 Phonics, and hit join. And this opens the new style Meet. As you can see, the camera works immediately. I'm just going to turn that off, just to help with a little bit of the speed related. And you can see the microphone's working immediately. I have also the ability to have different backgrounds. So this is not actually the background of where I am. This is one of the virtual backgrounds, but you can also blur backgrounds as well if you wish. So you can prepare before you actually join. If for any reason it's picking up the wrong device, then in settings you can change that to choose the right audio and video settings for you. So when you're ready, you hit join now. And as you can see, the interface is a little bit slicker and different now. So it's coming up with a quick summary of the meeting. This would be me if I put my camera on, but as you can see, the camera is off. That's the name of the meeting, Y2 Phonics. And anyone within my school would be able to use that code, Y2 Phonics, to join. Now, I originally put capitals and spaces in. Google ignores those things. So it doesn't matter how you do it, whether you capitalise or don't capitalise, whether you put the space in or don't put the space in. You'll all end up here if you use that order of letters and numbers. So that's how this code works to get me in. So from here I've got basic functions at the bottom here. I can turn microphone on and off, camera on and off. I can raise hand, which indicates to people who are in the meeting, who are teachers, that somebody wants to say something, and I can lower my hand. From here I can now present my screen, so I can present my entire screen, and you have to click on the thumbnail and go share to present that. Or I can also present a window, and I can choose one of my windows that I've got open here, or I can present a tab, which, as it says, is best for video and animation. So I can choose that one, for example, and hit share, and that's what's going to be being shared now. Let's stop sharing that screen and go back. So that present option is now available here in the bottom section. This is also where you now find the more options. So from here I can choose to cast this meeting to a Chromecast or one of the many boards such as ProWise boards, which allow you to cast to them now. I can open a Jamboard, an interactive whiteboard that we can use in this Meet to better collaborate, or for me just to show things and draw things. I can record the meeting. This function allows us to make recordings of the meeting that we can then share with people later. There are some changes coming up to this, but not until 2022. I can change the layout, so what I can see on the screen. Auto mode will choose what Google thinks is the best option for you. Tiled mode is one that I use most, and you can choose the number of tiles that you want to see at once depending, so you can have definitely a full class tiled if you wish. And Spotlight view just brings the main speaker, the person who's actually saying things, to the fore, which can be quite useful. Can certainly help those students who, for example, lip read, because they get a bigger picture to look at as well. And then you've got the option to have a spotlight with a sidebar. So those are the view options. I can put the whole thing full screen. It just jumps the screen slightly to fill the whole entire screen. I've got that again, another place where I can change my background now I'm in the meeting. And I've got closed captions, which I can turn on or off. Now, if you, as the user, turn on closed captions, then anything anyone else says will be turned into captions that appear across the bottom of your screen, automatically generated by Google. They're very accurate and very useful. Again, for children who need that extra accessibility to be able to read what's being said. A brilliant accessibility feature. Option to use phone for audio isn't really used very much, but if you're really struggling with audio issues on your computer, that is an option, but be wary of the cost of calls on that, so I would suggest not using that in a school environment. From here I can report a problem, that would be a bug, for example, that we've noticed that will go straight to Google. I can also report abuse, so if a user is misbehaving, I can hit this button and it will give me the option to sort of ban them from the meeting as the teacher. And there is some help files from here, and again a link back to the settings which we looked at the very beginning. So all those things are now in these 3 dots hidden in the middle of the screen. The last button allows me to leave the call, and as teacher who created the call, I can just duck out and leave another adult in charge of the call. That's absolutely fine. Or I can end call, which will automatically kick everyone else out of the meeting and close the call so that the children can't come back in because there's no adult started the meeting. So that's a really powerful now way of managing to end and finish the call. Up at the top here, I've got this little box which is flashing away to tell me that yes, I'm the one who's talking and there is volume noise that I should better hear. Down here I've got a few extra buttons, so this brings up the meetings details box that used to be hidden over on the left hand side of the screen. So it tells us about the meeting's nickname, so I can remember it to tell people what it is. I can copy and share joining information, so if we're wanting to bring somebody in who's not part of our school environment or not part of the Google Classroom where I'm using this link maybe, then sending this joining information to that person will allow them to join in to our meet. I'll get a little ding dong because it'll be an external person and I allow them in. And again, attachments and things will appear in here if you have any. The next icon across is about who's in the meeting, the show everyone box, and if there were multiple people in this meeting I would see lots of people and I'd be able to mute individual people if I needed to. I've also got a mute all button, but actually we're all muted at the moment, so it's saying it's all muted. I can also manually add people if I want by typing in their email address, and that will invite them straight into the meeting. I can invite people in, but it does assume that they've got ability to get to the email, which again with pupils you won't necessarily have. So the code's the best way. So just going to bring in Albert Pupil. So we've got Albert joining in, and as you can see now I've got a second person in here. I've got the option to mute them or I cannot unmute them, and that is one of the features that's for security, so that I cannot be unmuting him at a point where it's just inconvenient for him, where there's something happening in the background maybe, for example. So I can mute but not unmute. I can also pin that person to make them fill my screen, which they're already doing with this lovely telecast no signal, and I can also kick them out of the meeting from here if I wish to, if they've ended up in the wrong place. So host controls allows me to decide whether or not other users can share their screen. I can toggle it on and off, and disables the chat messages if we wish. But that also gives me a link through to the full settings, which also includes quick access. So quick access by default is on. If I turn it off after I've joined, only people invited by the host can join without asking. Everyone else would just get a ding dong and I have to let people in. So it's quite a nice way of controlling flow for meetings where you want to control that flow. For example, if parents are using children's accounts to join you for something like a parents meeting. So that ability again is there as an extra setting in host controls. The chat is here, and again at the moment chat's enabled. If I disable chat, it just means that nobody else apart from me can type in here because I'm the teacher. I still have the ability to send text as a message, which is quite useful, and I can toggle that on and off. And then you may or may not have access to extra activities, so I've got a quick link to the recording button and whiteboarding buttons in here. If you've got a premium account, then there are other things like breakout rooms that you can activate, which I don't have available in this particular school setup. And last but by no means least, there's another way of getting to those full host controls that we looked at just now: quick access, screen sharing, chat message, and so that's all available quickly as a little button at the bottom here. So this is a much more streamlined and I think it's easier to get to things than the previous version of Meet. So it's all good steps in the right direction.